and welcome to another Getting Nowhere Fast episode of We Only Look Thin. I am Katherine Weigel. I'm one of your hosts. I'm a Tiny Habits certified coach, a Thrive Global certified coach. I've lost over 100 pounds and kept it off for over 7 years. And with me today is
Donald Weigel, and I am a host of this show. I have lost about 100 pounds. I've kept it off also for about 7 years. And we're here to talk about it.
We are here to talk about it. And we spent many years going nowhere fast and being really annoyed by it.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, I still fall into this trap, so to speak, of I will, like, before I start something new.
Yes.
I'll really try and like figure out exactly the absolute best way to do it before I start doing it.
Well, and I think too, as a you recognize, I don't know what you got to recognize, man. I don't know where that came from. Sorry.
You best recognize home slice. Yes,
yeah, boy.
Oh no.
Okay, this went sideways. I'm sorry. Speaking of going nowhere fast. So, you in the Gretchen Rubin world of sort of understanding how the world goes, you see yourself as a questioner, someone who really wants to research, make sure you understand all of the components. You're the guy that reads the entire manual of your car before you drive. And I'm just a like press buttons and go kind of person. So you not just overthink things, but you like to make sure that you are prepared.
Yeah, no, I'd like to understand. That's what instructions are for.
Oh my gosh.
When they
They're
come
for
with
annoying you.
I feel like I get a lot out of reading instructions.
They're like side view mirrors in a car. You don't really need them. You just go.
Well, you know. Wait a minute, what?
No, but like Donald, if he gets like,
I was just gonna like accept that you don't need side view mirrors and move on.
If you have a toothbrush, you're like, okay, I just want to make sure I read all the things because what if the technology has changed?
Yeah. What if there is a brushing technique of which I am not aware?
Yeah.
That the instructions will make clear.
Okay, but not that this is what this episode is about. For me, just diving into things without paying any attention is also a bad thing. So I'm not saying that Donald's planning is a bad thing. It is just a way to be super prepared where maybe I am underprepared.
But, you know, the point here is...
Yes. What is the point, Donald?
That we will oftentimes say things like, I want to lose 10 pounds.
Yes.
And then we will start to do research on the perfect diet.
Yes.
The perfect method to lose that 10 pounds. Then the perfect exercise. And we will then research like, okay, when is the best time?
Right.
When is the best time for me? What is the optimal amount of sleep I should get before I do this particular exercise? How long should I expect it to take? And we try and refine and refine and refine. And before we know it, weeks or months have gone by and we haven't actually started doing anything.
Well, and especially when it's like, oh, well, the beginning of the month is the best time to do it. Well, after the vacation is the best time to do it. Well, like when does the plan go on sale? I don't want to actually do it until I get the best price for it. And we imagine that all of this is actually action on our goals, right? Like every day we're thinking about it. We're making spreadsheets and it feels productive. But there's a point at which it stops being productive and just becomes information overload. And we get sort of a plan paralysis because we're not really doing anything. We're just thinking about doing things.
And, you know, in the process of thinking about an episode, doing an episode about this, and I say we because we're married, so I get half the credit.
Or blame.
Or blame. It was really Catherine. Found an article by fan favorite Alice Boyce. She's one of our favorites.
She is one of our favorites.
Dr. Alice Boyce. We read a couple of her books. She talks a lot about self-sabotage and ways in which we sabotage ourselves when we're trying to get to our goals. And she has written an article called 5 Mistakes People Make When Trying to Create Perfect Plans. And we're going to use this as an outline for this episode. And she introduces a couple of concepts that I hadn't really heard of before. One of which is premature optimization, and the other one is the overthinkers paradox.
That sounds like something to really like a paradox. That seems like.
I know. I would like whenever I think of paradox, it always I think of science fiction. Like you're time traveling and creating a paradox. Yeah.
So your instinct might be to overthink the overthinkers paradox. But I'm gonna stop you right there, buddy. Okay. So the overthinkers paradox is when we try to be so perfect that we never start. And this was maybe me for 40 years or so.
And look, I admit I still fall into this, not necessarily with health and fitness, but I mean, it still can happen to me when I'm trying to think of there's a new habit I want to start. And I will just overthink when and where and how, and instead of just starting it and then figuring out, the refining process later.
Right. So again, it's just waiting to find the perfect diet, the perfect time to start, the perfect shoes, the perfect, even the perfect inspiration or the perfect motivation to get you started. And it's like that, I'm not going to do anything until I know that I'm doing the right thing. And part of it is we don't want to look stupid to ourselves or to others. We want to make sure we're doing the best thing. And instead of doing anything, we do nothing. So we search endlessly for the best, whatever it is. And this mindset, again, it feels productive because we're thinking about doing it, but it just delays actual progress. We've done the episode, the motivation bus. We're just waiting for perfect instead of taking small steps. And again, it's paradoxically unproductive.
Yeah, and that is the idea behind premature optimization. We try to come up with a perfect plan that will guarantee our success and eliminate any potential missteps or inefficiencies before we've even started.
Womp womp.
And so Dr. Alice Boyce has come up with the 5 traps of premature optimization and some suggestions for how to not fall into said traps.
Well, and we try to be this perfect version of weight loss before we even try anything at all to see if it fits our lifestyles.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we are going to dive into the 5 traps of premature optimization, which is also medically something that you can get treated for, but it's fine. Okay, so the first is, and this is a really big one because it feels razzle-dazzly, is tool obsession.
Oh my goodness. So again, I fall into this one so bad.
Oh my gosh. Should I get a Fitbit or should I get an Apple Watch or should I get a Garmin or should I get whatever? So again, it's spending weeks researching fitness trackers or walking pads or which one do you have or which color is the best or what size is the best. I mean, even the Fitbit question is I don't know, just which one has a cool colored band. You don't have to think about it forever to find the perfect one.
Well, and here's another secret. You can start walking before you have a fitness tracker.
What? Well, and you know what? I'm going to give myself kudos. I'm patting myself on the back right now, everybody, because I downloaded the Fitbit app before I actually got the watch. And was just you know what? I'm going to see if I like the Fitbit app, and then I'll spend the $200 on the watch. So yay me for getting it done early.
Yeah, and look, I know this is not the point, but most Android phones have apps that you can download that will allow you, the phone will count your steps. It won't be as cool as having a fitness tracker, but just the point being, you don't have to wait for the perfect fitness watch to come along before you start taking steps. Just take some steps.
Literal steps. Well, and yeah. I think too, it's that the tool obsession is which yoga class should I join? Which, pair of running shoes should I get? Which bathing suit is the best? Which basketball is the best? Instead of doing that, we can just start doing the thing we want to do. And I think when we get stuck on that obsession of the razzle dazzle, tool. We forget that anything we do counts, like any activity we do, even like I'm going to pump up the volume. I'm going to pump up the volume. I can still eat more vegetables without deciding which plan I'm doing. Right? It doesn't we don't have to find the product before we get moving on taking the action.
Yeah, and I don't think Dr. Boyce talks about this, but I think part of the problem is that I know I get stuck with this idea that if I do something, that's my thing.
Right.
And that's the thing that I'm going to have to stick with. And that's the thing I'm going to have to do. So I think it's almost like a commitment phobia in a way. But you can start with what you have and just move or just start eating and then upgrade and refine and change later.
Well, it's like announcing your Instagram name. Like, I'm a Weight Watcher Wendy or whatever. Like, you don't have to come up with the perfect name.
Right.
And sometimes we won't record an episode until we've decided what the name of the episode is. Like, well, I've got to find the perfect one before we do it. So again, overthinking that tool obsession. Don't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the second one is premature efficiency. So,
oh my gosh, this is huge.
So, a couple of good examples of this. You join Weight Watchers and you're thinking to yourself, well, if I do this for this amount of months, I'm going to lose this many pounds a week or this many fractions of a pound a week.
The number of times I would do that on day one.
Oh, on day one. And like you're already calculating and figuring out, what your pound average weight loss per week is, or you're trying to build like some sort of meal prep system before you even know what meals you like or know like if you can stick to the calorie goal that's in front of you, or you've even tried to count your calories or log your points like Weight Watchers does. You try and automate something that you haven't even tested yet.
Well, and when we see people on Instagram or like short videos of like, hey, follow my simple Sunday meal prep thing, and you buy all of the gadgets and and I guess that goes back in the tool obsession of like, oh, well, this person is doing this and I bet I can do it. And then you're like, oh, but I don't, like, you don't even know if Sundays are good for you, but you buy all of the stuff and the plan and the, sheets and stuff before you even know if that is going to really fit into your lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. So in other words, start doing something first, then refine it later. Just pick something you can do right now and start doing it. Add some vegetables, take away a snack, add some walking, add, a push-up here and there, like something that you can add to your life, something that you can start doing now, and then you can build on it later.
Exactly. The next one is premature effectiveness. This one is really big. Researching optimal macros before you've stuck to a calorie goal for a week. And so many people do that like, well, what should my macros be? And how should I do this? And it's like, dude, just see if you can track for a week before, and I say dude quite often, before you even like start. So again, it's not that idea of getting super, I think they call it in the weeds, of being super specific on things instead of just trying something out. And I know that like I did that so many times before I actually paid attention to my actual like life and season of life. So again, good beats perfect. And one thing that actually it didn't mention it in the article, but I recently read another book by Alice Boyes about productivity. And she talks about the MVP. What? Most valuable player. No, everyone. Ha
It's a shocking twist.
It is a twist. It's minimum viable product. Just get something done. Get a lean cuisine before you start, trying to meal prep every single day for the next 365 days. Like, what is the least amount that you can do that still produces an end product? So again, just walk your kid to school before you worry about the $200 watch. Like, eat some vegetables, like Donald said, before you start tracking your macros. So start small, and then you can always, like Donald said, refine and get more, level up as you go. But don't go out of the gate at like 100 miles an hour. pace yourself and just get started before you expect perfection.
And the next one I think is sort of similar, which is worrying about secondary features first.
Oh,
And I think macros that were just mentioned is actually a good example of this. Worrying about optimizing your macros before you've figured out, what calorie goal you should be doing or what calorie goal you can do. Designing the prettiest workout journal before you've done a single workout.
Well, and that like razzle dazzle of like, am I a Stanley Cup person or am I a Mawala bottle person? Am I a Brooks running shoes or a Hoka running shoes? Like you focus on that kind of, again, that sparkly interest thing instead of just the practical getting started.
Or even worrying about like what is the best like food tracker app or fitness tracker app, like trying to come up with the best app or best habit tracker app. And you like, no matter how good your app is, it doesn't matter if you're not actually exercising.
Oh my gosh. No, and I do this too of that, like, what font should I use for like this project before I've even finished the whole, the whole PowerPoint presentation, which I love PowerPoint.
So rather than, trying to start by focusing on these secondary things, focus on the core habits, eating well, sleeping, moving, counting your calories, like the very basic things that you need to do. Ultimately, you need to burn more calories than what you're eating. So start doing the core habits that are going to get you there rather than worrying about like, do I have the best running shoes right now?
Well, and I think part of it too, and I think she mentioned this in the article, was, looking for the perfect, powerlifting journal before you've even consistently gone to the gym for a week. It's putting that cart before the horse. There, I said it. I put it into normal folk terms.
Yeah.
Everybody's got your carts and your horses. You know what I mean?
Do you think younger people like still use that expression?
I don't know. Let's ask a young person. Let's wake our young person
I
up.
feel like that's super old-timey even for me, like putting the cart before the horse. Like,
really?
Well,
what would you say?
How often do you see... Well, I would still say that, but like how often do you see like horse-drawn carts anymore? Like in... like maybe you go out to Amish country.
I was going to say, I literally went to your parents and there were carts and horses.
Unless you live there, you're not seeing horse-drawn carts too often.
I guess so.
Put the...
See, you don't even have anything else. Know. If anyone else knows what to put before what, you let me know.
Exactly. All right.
Okay. So the last one is no milestones, no feedback. I keep wanting to say no woman, no cry. Because I love the reggae. It is my favorite thing.
My goodness.
Okay, so...
I would not have married you if that was true.
Okay, so an example of no milestones, no feedback would be like planning to run a marathon before you've even run a 5K. And again, this gets into that you see an influencer do something big, or you hear someone who's like, well, I never ran before, and then I ran a marathon. Why don't you just see if you like jogging first? Why don't you do a couch to 5K before you start planning the marathon? Why don't you try to eat well for a month before actually like saying or announcing you're going to lose 100 pounds? Again, I'm going to say cart before the horse, Donald. Everybody knows what it is now because we just talked about it in the last segment.
Yeah.
So again,
put the AI before the bleep blorp. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of something modern to say.
You can't do it.
No,
Nobody can do it because carts and horses, everybody understands it now.
It's true.
Okay, so you need to test and learn what works for your body before you commit to this big goal. And I think there is a segment of people who are motivated by giant goals and like, I'm going to, do an ultra marathon. I'm going to hit this giant goal before you even see if you can do something small. And it might even be like, well, I'm going to be a millionaire. Okay, well, why don't you just like start putting 2% away in your 401k first? How about that? Well, that's not big enough. I need to have a giant goal because that'll keep me motivated.
How many times have I done that?
Right. They want to go big. Oh, big or go home? Is that? No, that's not cart and the horse.
Go big or go home is like.
But it doesn't seem committed enough if you start small, right? If you're just like, well, I'm going to start a small thing. Like, well, that's not exciting.
Yeah.
But you don't have to be exciting. You just need to start getting something done. So again, use milestones instead of giant, giant goals at the end. Sure, we all want the end result, but if we start small with something like, I'm going to try to go to the gym 3 times a week. I'm going to stretch for 5 minutes each morning. I'm going to drink a bottle of water. That doesn't sound exciting, but you're making progress. So again, instead of I paid for this 3-month gym subscription and I'm going to go every single day for 3 months, which is kind of unrealistic. Again, start with I'm going to go 3 times a week, or I'm going to go on the weekends. Instead of I just paid for this 90-day weight loss plan and I'm going to lose, 3 pounds a week and I'm going to hit my goal weight. Instead of that, just try tracking your calories for a week and see how that goes, and use that small milestone to then repeat. It's not that we have to lose 50 pounds. It's I need to do what it takes to lose a pound 50 times. So breaking it into smaller goals makes it more realistic, because look, we tried all the fast, like I tried to lose weight fast for 20 years and didn't. So what if I tried just a pound at a time in a mindful way instead of, failing that giant goal over and over again?
Absolutely. Okay. So how do we break out of these patterns? How do we stop self-sabotaging ourselves in these ways? And Dr. Boyce puts forth a 3-step plan.
Only 3?
It's only 3 steps. The first one is to name the loophole. She says name the pattern. I like name the loophole. Name which of these traps that you are falling into, whether it's tool obsession or premature effectiveness or worrying about secondary features first. Naming what you're doing can really help you to understand and to recognize that you're doing it, and to then, really have to stop lying to yourself about what you're doing and then instead just do it. If you realize the pattern that you're falling into, the loophole that you're invoking, it's much harder to keep going with it once you are aware of what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. So the second one is break goals into smaller actions. So again, if my goal is to lose 5 pounds, my habits would be track daily, pump up the volume. I'm not even gonna do the pump up the volume. I did it.
I volume. You said you weren't going to, and then you did.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm a lying liar who lies. But I'm going to pump up the volume each day. I am going to close my kitchen at 8 p.m. I am going to save indulgences for when I plan them in advance. So again, that breaks it into actions instead of just aspirations. And so again, finally, that breaking steps into smaller actions is I have certain things that I intend on doing each day. There are 4 or 5 key habits that I have that I can check off that will help me achieve the goal that I want, but I know what they are in advance, so I can get them done.
Okay, so the third step in this is to pause the planning.
Yeah.
Set challenges with yourself. I won't research another workout until I've done 10 sessions of something.
Yeah.
Till I've done 10 somethings. I won't buy any new tools until I meet XYZ milestone, until I've, till I've tracked my food for 30 days, till I've tracked my calories for a certain amount of time, until I've, done a certain amount of walking each day. Like, I won't get any more tools until, so really, instead of, promise yourself that you're not going to do any more planning until you've actually done a certain amount of doing.
Right. And I think for you, and I think you get frustrated, or you have mentioned it, I won't say where or who, but when someone asks you to research something and they want an exhaustive, like, give me 50 options
for
on
sure.
whatever. And it wastes so much time just continuing to research and research and research, and having a policy of, I will research 3 plans and I will choose from one of those. It doesn't have to be the perfect plan. You can try it out, see how it works, and then adjust again after that. I've done 10 sessions, I've tracked for 5 weeks, I've whatever. But having a policy of, I'm not going to overthink this, or even I am going to research this for 30 minutes And whatever I find, I am going to make a choice from that instead of, well, I spent 4 hours researching the perfect, insole. It's just too much, Donald. It's too much.
And look, and Catherine's referring to a former boss, where, I would go to place an office supply order and, he would look at it and be like, well, did you check and make sure that Office Depot doesn't have these pens? We had an office supply place that we had an account with. Did you make sure Office Depot didn't have a cheaper, on these pens and on these box of staples? And did you try Amazon for blah, blah, blah? And it was like, he wanted to make sure that each individual item on this office supply list was absolutely like, the cheapest, because heaven forbid he spend 4 more cents on it. But, not really factoring in that it was a terrible use of my time.
Yeah.
and causing me to have to do a lot more work, and then therefore not doing other tasks that were far more important at the same time.
Yeah. And well, you started it, so I'm going to say it. He also wanted you to check out yard sales for cups for the office kitchen at one point, instead of just being dude, we don't need to go to 50 thrift stores. I have other work to do.
We could just get cheap coffee mugs from IKEA or Target or something and move on, really.
Exactly. Well, anyway, it's exhausting doing it and hearing about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly.
At some point, you just have to stop and make a choice and move forward. So,
well, and look, not exactly the point of what we've been talking about, but at a certain point, your time is also valuable.
Yeah.
And when you're worried about, very small amounts of money that you're saving, but you're spending so much more time to do it, it's another sort of good example of this overthinkers paradox of I'm spending so much of my time, which actually is valuable and does cost money, rather than just pulling the trigger on the $2 pens in case there's $1.75 pens out there.
Yeah, exactly. You're ignoring the forest for the tree. Anyway, I won't make any more. It's fine.
Yes,
I'll
exactly.
Fine. Time is money, everybody. See, another one. Ha ha. Okay, so again, start messy. Start with just the minimum viable product, the MVP. You don't have to have the perfect shoes to go for a walk. You don't have to sign up for the perfect workout plan before you actually walk your stairs at work. You can start small and then expand from there. Start small where you are with the tools that you have and move forward. You can always reassess in 3 weeks, in a month, and see where you're ready to level up. But don't fall into that analysis paralysis and, just run in place over and over again, getting nowhere fast, as it were. So
unless you're on a treadmill, in which case that's the whole point.
Exactly. So I would encourage you to think of one thing that you tend to do over and over again and really start addressing that. I think for me, the perfect planner feels like a new fresh start, a clean slate. I get kind of stuck in that of the perfect notebook.
Yeah.
And it's this time this planner is going to really be the thing that I need to get started. We confuse that sort of spark of excitement for an actual plan to move forward. So for me, it's definitely that the perfect planner, the perfect habit tracker that I kind of get stuck with.
Well, and I don't know that we exactly talked about this, but I think I get hung up with the idea of, I really need to find the exact right time to fit this in so that I know that I'll always do it. And I get hung up with, instead of that, just, doing it as I can, or picking a time. And if it's not perfect every day, at least I'm doing it some of the time, which is better than none of the time.
Yeah, I think that's a big one for me. I forgot actually last night that one of my habits that I'm doing this week is either 5 minutes of stretching yoga or a walk outside. And I had it stuck in my head that I needed to go for a walk last night at 9 p.m. And then I was like, oh, wait, but I could just stretch while we're watching TV. Womp womp. So but I got so fixated on going outside that I was like, oh, I could do something else that would help my my healthy habits. So again, don't get stuck. So again, so many times we get stuck feeling like we need the perfect fix for ourselves when really we just need to get started. Maybe you failed a number of times. Maybe you've signed up for things that didn't end up working out. Maybe you are so used to not succeeding that you're just terrified of failing. But going from that position of feeling like you've got to correct yourself, it just makes us feel worse. But you can go for a short walk for free. You can add vegetables for free. You can bend at the waist without consulting a doctor. Just make a small step, a small investment in yourself. You don't have to start huge and audacious and over the top. You don't have to announce to the world what you're doing. You can quietly make progress until you're ready to do more. Again, set some limits for yourself on that, planning procrastination. Don't get stuck in perfect. Don't let, again, that whole perfect be the enemy of the good. Just get started small and make adjustments as you go. And quite honestly, without even the benefit of this article 7 years ago, I just decided to start. I didn't need perfect. I just needed to take small steps. And it made such a difference just to build momentum instead of waiting for that perfect motivation. And we know that if we can do it, you can do it too.
Absolutely. And I mean, goodness knows if we worried about making these podcasts perfect before we put them out there, there wouldn't be any episodes of this podcast out there. They're very good.
Okay.
So please, we really appreciate you listening to this podcast. And there are a lot of other episodes out there. This was episode something like 384. The most recent 300 are all available wherever you found this one on all of the major podcast platforms. And you can find every single one back to the first episode available on YouTube or on our website at any time at weonlylookthin.com.
Yep. And if you are at our website, click on that link for join our support group to find out more about Wolt Place. We Only Look Thin Place is our Facebook-based accountability group for women. But not only are we a Facebook group, we are also a weekly Zoom meeting coaching group. So if you are not feeling super duper great about Facebook, or maybe you're a little bit shy, don't worry, just join. Again, minimum viable product. Join with a monthly subscription. You get a 3-day complimentary trial where you can lurk all day. Enjoy it. Enjoy lurking for 3 days and see how you like it.
That's right.
Or a 3-month subscription with a 7-day complimentary trial. But it's such a great investment. We're doing habit challenges right now with small, daily, achievable steps that we can do. And I think it's really been super beneficial for a lot of people. But if you've been overthinking the perfect time to join, maybe join in the summer, maybe join in the fall, maybe join after whatever project, just join and get started. It's just such a wonderful community. I'm super proud of it, and give it a try. I bet you'll like it. I bet you will. And just imagine having that kind of access to Katherine Weigel and her expertise and her years of experience. I know that it's pretty great for me to have that kind of access, and you can too. So check out Wolt Place. You can also check us out on social media. We are on Instagram and Facebook at We Only Look Thin. Or you could email us if you prefer. weonlylookthin@gmail.com is the place to do that. If you have episode suggestions, if you have some suggestions for us that we didn't talk about on how to stop overthinking and just start doing, we would love to hear from you. If you would like to give us a compliment or say hello, you can also do all those things once again to weonlylookthin@gmail.com. Yep. And if you have a couple of extra minutes, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and a review. Not only does it let us know that what we're doing after all these years is making a difference in your life, it warms the cockles of our hearts to know that we're a part of your journey venture. But it helps people on the internet find us. It boosts our ratings in Apple Podcasts. And again, it makes us feel good and let us know that what we're doing is making a difference. So please take a minute to do that. That'd be great.
I bet that's another expression young people don't use, which is warm the cockles of my heart. Yeah,
I don't know what a cockle is.
Yeah, I'm not
I didn't take an anatomy class.
Not entirely sure myself. But another thing you can do for us that would really help us out is just to tell somebody about the show. If you know somebody who might get something out of it, if you tell them about us, it really does help the show grow. If you are on an interweb group, such as a Discord server, a subreddit, or a Facebook group, and it makes sense to give us a shout out, we would be grateful because it does help the show grow.
So if you've started planning a trip to Amish country to see if you can find any carts before horses, just remember that Donald and I are an inspiration.
The information that you hear on this podcast is for informational purposes only. The hosts are not medical professionals. You should always consult with your doctor, nurse, or other certified health professional before beginning any diet or fitness program.